few of them where you wake up the next morning and, okay, this is a different country now. And this is one of those moments. But what I can say is that there are a few things that have to happen going forward. And maybe on the sort of, they have to get uglier first side of it, is that we have to establish order. We were talking about civilization, protecting civilization. Well, you need order for civilization. You need law and order. And so that needs to be reasserted in a big way. And that can be ugly. Now, it's done through the law. You know, no one is calling for, again, we are the defenders of civilization. We don't want to see random violence. We don't want to see people killed in the street. We don't want to see that. What we want to see are legal authorities exercise that authority. That can be an ugly thing. Like putting people in prison is not a happy thing. We wish we didn't have to do that. Executing murderers, people who commit crimes, need to be executed. And it needs to be done legally and swiftly, not 35 years after they've been convicted. I believe personally that public execution should come back. There's a reason why Western civilization had public execution in many places for hundreds and thousands of years. I think that's an example people need to see. And a lot of that stuff is ugly. But here's the thing. You're going to have ugliness no matter what. And either we can have ugliness in the street. We can have the kind of ugliness where a CEO walking down the street at 5 a.m. gets shot in the back of the head. We can have the kind of ugliness where a man on a college campus who's just trying to make the argument gets shot and killed. We can have that kind of ugliness. The ugliness that can affect anybody, that anyone can fall victim to. Or we can have the ugliness that's contained, where we have people in positions of authority who use force to go and take the violent people and the dangerous people and punish them. We can have that kind of ugliness. And that's what we need. And then after that, or at the same time, we've already talked about this a little bit.
We're going to welcome back radio in just 1 sec. Please hold that thought.
Sure.
Hold that thought. Welcome back radio. 1 sec. Welcome back to the final segment with Charlie's friends, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Ben Shapiro. Again, thank you guys for coming. And we are talking about what happens next. And you're making I think, a really impassioned, important point about justice contained by the authorities and the structures that we, the people, voted for versus anarchy in the streets. And please finish your thought.
Yeah, well, so that's one really important piece of this that we need. And then the other piece going forward, and we've talked about this a little bit, is unity. Not just random. You can't just say, hey, everyone, let's unite, let's be united. You can't go, if you go up to a group of 1,000 people and say, hey, let's unite, guys, they're going to look at you and say, and they're going to ask, well, what do you mean, to do what? Unite around, for what? What are we uniting? I'm not going to unite with you unless I know what we're doing. And so that's why a lot of the calls for just sort of generic unity in America don't really work, because there's always the question of around what? But as conservatives, as people on the right, we can unite, and we should. And I think what we need to do is put to the side a lot of our our squabbles, our family feuds. Put all that to the side for now. We can get back to a lot of that stuff. We probably will. I'm sure we will.
Conservatives always do.
We will always get back to it. But for right now, we have more important things to do, because one thing I know for sure. And there are plenty of conservatives who I've been known to get into feuds here and there with people. But here's what I know, and we saw this with Charlie, that if I walk out of this building and I get killed, that every conservative, even the ones that I've feuded with, that they will not be happy about that. They will mourn that. They will mourn that, and the same if it happened to any of us. They'll mourn it. Even the people, the conservatives, didn't like us. But I also know that on the left, they won't share in that mourning for the most part. And so kind of the friend-enemy distinction is easy for me to see. Mm-hmm. The people who will mourn your death are your friends. The people who will dance on your grave and laugh in the face of your grieving wife are your enemies in this battle. And so that's where the unity needs to come.
wretched demons, honestly. Please, yeah. Where do we go next?
You cannot have a marketplace of any kind, of ideas or of goods, if people are shooting up the marketplace. And it's not even just the murderer in this case, because there are freaks everywhere and horrible events happen. But the loud and widespread celebration of that sort of thing shows us that there are 3 steps. Step 1 is we want to have a robust conversation in a good country, right? But we are where we are, in a degraded and dangerous place. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, flourishing and speech and national unity. But there is that step 2. There is that question, how do we get there? And there is no liberty without order, and there is no civilization in which half the country is going to dance when the other half is murdered. And so that requires a cultural response. I think you're starting to see that from a lot of companies. That's very good. That requires conservatives to let down their grudges that they're always holding all the time for just a little bit and rally at least around a person, and a person whose clear vision has led us for a long time very successfully. And it requires the government to get in and do its job as well. And then and only then can you get back to the kind of country that at least I want. And if the people who celebrate murder don't want it, too bad.
I mean, I know we at Daily Wire, we trust you at TPUSA to do it. I mean, that's really the answer. We're willing to provide, and we are providing, any level of material support, any level of support on the ground, boots on the ground, helping you to do what Charlie would have wanted to be done here. And I think that the reason that everybody trusted Charlie, the reason we're all mourning Charlie, is because nobody did it better. You spelled out 2 of Charlie's goals. You said, he wanted to bring people back to Christ and bring people back to church and back to biblical values. And he wanted to keep the MAGA coalition together.
And expand it.
And the question is how you do that. And the answer is you focus on the first, and the second is a byproduct. Okay, the answer is that, as Matt says, you have to unite around something. And yeah, we can unite in the short term around the fact that there are a bunch of people who hate our guts and want to murder us, which of course is true. But long-term unity, big movement change, which is what Charlie was really trying to drive, and why he went to talk to people who disagree, is about building around those core values. And so the long-term vision, yeah, we'll have our petty squabbles, and yeah, some of those squabbles will be more than petty, but the long-term vision has to be built around those original biblical conservative values that Charlie stood for, things like the Bible, things like free markets, things like family, all those things are things Charlie stood for. You got to build the coalition around values, because we can't build it around the man, but we can build it around the values that he left behind and that he spent his entire life fighting for. And, we couldn't be, frankly, more honored to join you guys as much as we can in the fight.
Thank you for that, and thank you for donating the Daily Wire $1 million, breaking news on this show. Thank you guys for honoring Charlie so well today. God bless you.